If you could go back, how would you approach things differently so that you would have obtained a different result?
You talking about while I was on parole?
I think it's important to look at what's happened in the past and then kind of learn from that, and kind of plan on how to do things differently moving forward. So I guess however you look at it, right? If you're granted another chance, and the reason I ask is if you're granted parole again, the conditions will be similar, right? It's going to be a similar situation. How do you plan, or what do you think needs to happen to break the cycle that fallen back into?
To be honest, I don't think I'm going to fall back into that cycle anymore because so this time I have been through some life-changing experiences and I realized that I'm almost 30 years old and I spent most of my 20s incarcerated. And when I was a kid, I never would have thought that that was going to be me, you know? So I had a little brother and we're 13 years apart. And I seen him when he was little, and then I seen him when he was big. And I've noticed that I'm not getting any younger. And the way that I have been is not acceptable. It's time for me to be a man and grow up and not miss out on life.
Thank you for those comments. I'll note them. You've had looks like 2 disciplinaries. May 19th, 2024, BO2 fighting. It was a fighting assault BO2. The report says you were involved in some kind of altercation. It says you were engaging in mutual combat with another offender. What led to this fight happening?
So, I mean, the other offender was working out, and I was in his workout area, I guess, and that led to a fight. I shouldn't have been in his workout area.
Was this at the Salt Lake facility, or was this in Beaver?
This was at the Salt Lake prison.
Salt Lake. Okay. Then June 1st, 2024, says you had homemade alcohol in your cell or in your property bin. Was this alcohol yours?
I know you don't want to hear this, but it wasn't. So I'll tell you what happened. So I was moved so whenever I was in a treatment, when that BO2 happened, that mutual combat fight, and that got me to leave that treatment. So they moved me from there to another housing unit. And when I moved into that housing unit, I got moved into the cell, and my cellmate had brew in his property bin. And since I was in that cell too, they hit both of us for it. So
okay.
I got
Your
that.
statement is you didn't know that alcohol was there?
I was brand new to that cell. I barely even knew. I didn't even really know my cell yet.
Okay. And you deny that you've used alcohol since you arrived at the facility?
I haven't. You can UA me anytime, and I'll always pass.
Speaking of that, so per my records, it doesn't show up as a disciplinary, but my records show a positive for fentanyl on April 2nd of 2024. That was about 3 months after you arrived at the prison. So I think you maybe towards the end of RNO or possibly just out of RNO. Did you test positive for fentanyl? I'm a little confused because there is no corresponding write-up. I assume there would be, but did you test positive for fentanyl or anything else in April?
To be honest, I've never even had a UA. So I don't know where you got that, how that information is even on there, because I've never been UA'd the whole time I've been locked up.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's showing up on my end. I'm going to do some digging. I'm going to look at this and see if I see if I can't figure that out. But I'll note your comments that you haven't taken a UA, but that does show up at this time. So, but like I said, there's no disciplinary that shows up for it. It just populates. So I'll look into it. I'll make sure that I have the accurate information on that after today's hearing. Does that sound okay to you?
Is it possible that could be mixed up with somebody else or something?
Yeah, that certainly is possible. I'll look into it. I don't obviously do UAs or have really anything to do with the Department of Corrections practices in that way. That's showing on my side as far as the information that we have I'll cross reference that with the institutional progress report. Certainly, if that's not mentioned in the institutional progress report, I would imagine it's some sort of error. But I'm gonna dig into it, look into it, and make sure we have the accurate information on that. Okay.
Yeah, because that's not on my blue packet either.
Okay.
I don't know if that would be or not, but it's not. And
Yeah, I like I said, and I'll review the information from your blue packet. I have that in my on the it's populating. So I'll look into that and find the accurate information. I think that's the best we can do at this time. So that's how we'll proceed. Um, if you are granted parole, so I've reviewed your written submissions. Um, Still planning to live with either your mother, your cousin in Ogden or Harrisville. If you're granted parole, is that still the plan?
yes,
Okay, and then getting back to working through a temp service, similar type of job situation, is that still the plan?
yes, sir.
I note in the board packet, you say you don't think you need treatment or programming while incarcerated or after release. You note you are in the Beaver treatment program. Do you have any further comments on that? Certainly, it seems like staying on top of that, being involved in positive activities would be a positive. Certainly, if you're granted parole, that also is a requirement of it. But if I'm understanding correctly, you are willing to do any treatment or programming that is ordered. Is that accurate?
Yes, I will do anything that you guys want me to do.
Okay. And any other comments you have about your release plan?
Um, no, I think that's it. You
Okay.
guys nailed it.
As far as mental health, I believe so. I've noted so dyslexia that you've experienced in the past, but no mental health diagnoses, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, those types of things. Correct? And
Correct.
have you ever taken mental medications or done treatment for psychiatric reasons?
No, sir.
And how would you describe your mental health currently?
I say it's good.
And I've read, so in the file, there's some discussions of the heart murmur. I believe it talks about throughout your life. As far as I'm understanding, it sounds like no physical health issues that you think would get in the way of you being successful on parole. So maintaining a job, going to your appointments, etc. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering the questions I have for you. Um, I'll give you the final word. Anything else that you'd like the board to know?
No, but I really would. I know you already said you were going to do this, but yes, I really would appreciate if you look into that dirty UA for fentanyl because that's not true at all.
Now, I'm definitely going to look into that and get to the bottom of that, find the information possible. Like I said, in reviewing this, I saw it. It seemed like an outlier. I'm not sure where that's coming from. There is no disciplinary. So in my mind, there's no disciplinary for that behavior. Certainly not something that the board should be weighing highly. I'm going to state my opinion on that in my report to the board. I'll also look into it and do the investigating that I can to make sure that we get everything corrected that's within my power as I do that. So that's how I'll proceed. Is that sufficient for you? Does that sound like a plan?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to take your case under advisement. I'll put together a report and well, I've put together a report of what I reviewed prior to today's hearing. I'll include what you and I talked about at today's hearing in that report, and then I'll submit that to the members of the board, hopefully by tomorrow or in the next early next week as I'm preparing and looking into things. It usually takes the board between 2 to 4 weeks to make a decision. There's 5 of them. They make decisions by majority vote. Once that decision is made, we'll send it to you in writing through the mail, and it will also be posted to the Board of Pardons website for anyone in the community that would like to access it there. So with that, thank you for being here and discussing these things with me. I wish you the best of luck moving forward, and we'll go ahead and conclude.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We'll get on record there in Salt Lake. They'll let us know when we're on record, and then we'll get started.
Okay.
Did you say on record? Yeah.
On record.
This is a rehearing for Samani Sakona, number 235459. Is that you, sir?
Yes.
My name's Scott Manning. I'm a hearing officer with the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. I'll be conducting today. I'm going to be taking testimony from you. If you'd raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Excuse me. Do you swear that the testimony you provide today will be truthful and accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you receive at least 7 days written notice of today's hearing along with your blue disclosure packet?
Yes.
So that disclosure packet obviously contains the new information since your last hearing that the board will be considering as they make a decision after today's hearing. I have some questions about those things and planning on discussing them with you, but part of the purpose of today's hearing is to allow you to talk about any errors or inaccuracies that are in that. Are there any errors, inaccuracies, et cetera, in that information you'd like to mention at this time?
Yes, there is. So in one of the cases, the aggravated assault,
Mm-hmm.
it shows that I was in possession of a firearm, but I wasn't. So there's some discrepancies on that. It was a phone case that I had in my hand, and when I went to court for it, it was in that the information was in that paperwork, but I don't see it on this one.
So I've read pretty thoroughly into each of your cases. I've read the official version in the pre-sentence report for that case, as well as, victim statements after the fact and your comments on that case. So I'll provide a summary of all of that information to the board along with the official version in my report. A lot of that's already in here from your previous hearing, but I will again note your statement that you were not in possession of a firearm during that case. Does that sound sufficient to you?
Yeah. That's the only thing that was kind of bothering me, but I've gone over everything else. But
Okay. And that's certainly how it works. The pre-sentence report really contains the official version of that case, but the board considers all statements made by involved parties, and to the extent there's a need to do fact-finding, etc., they have avenues to do that. But at this time, I think what I'll do is include your statement today into the statements that have already been made into my report. And then from there, the board obviously will consider all of that as a whole. Does that make sense?
yes, and then there is one more thing. So this is my first time in prison, and I didn't know that all the charges were ran together or whatever. So I put on my statement on no victims. So I wrote like apology.
Like a victim apology statement, is that?
Yeah, correct.
And you'd like to read that today?
Yeah, I mean,
If you'd like to, that's perfect. Honestly, today's hearing we have 20 minutes scheduled, and anything you'd like to talk about, we can.
Okay.
I have really enough information that I need. And if we have time, I'll follow up with questions I prepared, but really anything you'd like to. So if you'd like to read that, go ahead.
Okay. So, with the victims, I personally, I just want to apologize and say that I'm truly sorry, for the impact that I've caused them in a negative way. And, hopefully down the road, I'm not sure if there's still a active, what's it called?
Protective order?
Yeah, protective order, restraining order, but I just want them to feel safe. And hopefully we can move on from this. And, the whole time I was down, I've been working 2 years down, and I've been working on myself, bettering myself with this program. And being that this is my first time in prison, I just want to, thank the board for pushing me out and giving me the time to work on learning more tools and new tools that I haven't learned because I wasn't in a program that was longer than a year. But I appreciate everything that I was taught and everything, and hopefully they can see some changes in me. If not, I hope down the road, they can accept my apologies and everything.
Well, thank you for your statement. I'll include that in my report. If you'd like the board members to have a copy of that, you can have your case manager send it to us through the email if you'd like to. But I have notes that I'll include. And I was planning to bring this up during the hearing, but since you've talked about it, I will at this time as well. 1 second. So if you are granted parole, I think it's likely that it will include domestic violence conditions.
Yes.
That would include getting an evaluation for recommended intervention services or treatment through a certified provider. That would also include no contact with any victims. Sometimes it's allowed if and when it is approved by a therapist and your supervisors, but there certainly include conditions of no contact. That is apart from any protective orders that are in place. Certainly, parole requires abiding by those protective orders, but generally, the domestic violence conditions also include a no contact order unless sometimes it allows it if approved. So,
Okay.
does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like you'd be willing to abide by such a condition?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So what I'm going to do, I'd like to just give a quick review of what's happened leading up to today's hearing. From there, I have a couple other questions that I've prepared. And then at the end of the hearing, I'll let you state on the record anything further that you'd like to as well. You can have the final word.
Okay.
So it looks like you arrived at the prison in January of 2023. There's 5 cases. I think you had been on probation for about 5 years prior to the prison commitment. Multiple of those 5 cases occurred while you were on those probations. The 5 cases were discussed at your last hearing. So I won't be asking specifically about the facts of those cases today. I'll certainly note the comments that you've made. And if you have any other comments, you can. So please make those comments. But because that hearing was already conducted, I won't be specifically talking about them. But certainly the board will consider those facts as they're making a decision.
Okay.
You're serving a maximum sentence of between 1 and up to 15 years in prison. Your guideline called for 21 months incarceration. You were granted 737 days of credit for time previously served prior to arriving. So you had actually served your guideline and about 3 months or 3 months over your guideline when you arrived at the prison. Of course, the board is obviously not bound by those guidelines. They consider all relevant factors to determine the timing and appropriateness of a release. I do note that I think as of, sorry about that. You had an original hearing in July of 2023. After that hearing, the board scheduled today's hearing. They noted an expectation that you complete substance use treatment as evaluated to be appropriate, and also complete any available and recommended cognitive behavioral therapy. In August, so last month, the board recognized and earned time credit because you did complete the residential substance use treatment program. And it looks like also MRT, anger management, and some other programs. So I have some questions about the programs, etc., but wanted to give you a chance first. What would you like the board to know about what's new since your last hearing?
So I pretty much kept myself busy. So when I went to Uintah County, they don't have a program there, but I worked on getting certificates that touched base on drug use, just whatever was available over there until I came here to Beaver. But I've stayed clear from a lot of things, actually. No write-ups the whole 2 years I've been down. No gang affiliated activities, no dirty UAs or anything. I stayed clear from all that in here in prison, which is pretty hard. Being my first time, I've seen a lot of things and everything, and heard a lot of things about prison, but my stay in prison was pretty good. I stayed away from everything, and if I can do it in here, I can do it outside in society. So, yeah, with the classes, the thing that stuck out to me was CBT. the, the cognitive behavior therapy. So with me, I fell a lot into my relapse because of two losses that I went through. I lost a son while incarcerated in 2021, and then I lost my father in 2022. So I didn't know how to cope with any of those feelings,
Mm-hmm.
which I turned into drugs bad. And coming here, taking the CBT class, it pretty much opened up my thought process and the way I can react on thinking, and then react to my to how my actions.
Yeah.
So I'm more clear. I have a clear mind now, and it's not clouded anymore because of the drug use that I was doing on the outside. Where in here, I've learned a lot of ways that I can cope with feelings. Not only that, but I was a lot vulnerable in here, where I can open up to a lot of people. One-on-ones was working for me with my therapist. So just being vulnerable in a way where I can share my problems and my issues.
Okay. If I'm understanding correctly, you've kind of dug into some coping strategies, both with grief, also with substance abuse and addiction, and kind of dug into how your thoughts can then affect your actions and behavior as well. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct.
And I do thank you for that. My next question was, what you learned in programming, but I do want to know you completed the Beaver Substance Use Treatment Program, MRT, and anger management. I think that was the second time you completed anger management. You also, prior to your previous hearing, completed life skills, victimology, communications, family and marital, and alcohol and drug education. So as far as I'm understanding, you've met the board's programming expectations and then some. So that should be noted at today's hearing. I did see, so your case action plan includes a goal that you complete your GED or high school diploma. I
Yes.
know your plans moving forward, working for a moving company, et cetera, you have some plans. Is that something you'd like to do? Like if the board were to grant parole, work on your high school diploma?
Yes. So I do have my high school diploma, but
Okay.
it's through I was in a group home, and it's through Triumph Academy.
Okay.
But I wasn't able to get my transcripts in from UN County
Okay.
due
So
to
you
that.
have your GED, but the Department of Corrections just doesn't have the documents for that, am I understanding?
Yeah, they don't have the documents of that, but I do have it.
Okay. Well, thank you for noting that. So as far as um if you're granted a parole, you had those years of probation prior to prison, in the struggles that you went through during that time. If you are granted a parole, it's similar to probation. There's conditions as far as classes, treatment, reporting, maintaining a job, residence, etc. What do you think needs to be different if you are granted parole so that you can achieve a successful result?
So my problem was the neighborhood that I was in, and I'm not residing there no more. My family's moved away from the Glendale area
Okay.
where we did reside. So I now reside in West Valley, which is away from everything. Um, and my support system is still strong. I have a lot of support out there, so I can use that. And also, uh, I am a member, LDS member, so I can use the church for more help. Because I know they have access to more, like what is it called? 12-step recovery and everything. If I needed to go there, I know they have a lot of help with the church, so I can turn to that as well. And then with work, I can get work. I have work set up out there as well, and a place to stay where it's um, positive.
Okay. And I think in your board packet, and by the way, thank you for your written submissions. It helps me prepare for the hearings when that information's in there. It sounds like you're open to doing some aftercare or outpatient treatment if that's what the board would like you to do. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, and anything that'll help me continue to stay sober and help me be successful out there. I whatever help comes my way, I'll take it.
Okay. I think so. I know you had no disciplinary violations. I think as of my records show, there is one incident that is pending. It's listed as an August 11th, 2024 incident. As I said, it's pending, so it hasn't resulted in a conviction. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. I think the report, it's a BO5. It says, quote, you participated in stealing a breakfast tray. Do you want to make a comment about that?
So I hopped in line to get an extra tray. It was dumb. I made a poor choice of getting an extra tray. So that's what it was.
Okay. Well, I'll note that for the board. I do note the report from the Department of Corrections that lists jobs as a mentor in the treatment program with a good rating, also a peer leader for a few months in that program with a good rating. I think so. The report is dated after the tray incident. Housing staff at that time said, you were doing well and gave a positive report of your behavior and attitude. We've talked about your release plans. Are you active STG?
So when I was not active, but when I came to prison, I don't know how it went active. But
Fred, you've submitted quite a bit of written submissions about your STG history and affiliation. It sounds like, if I'm understanding your written submissions, you state that affiliation is there at this time. You haven't been active for a few years, active in the gang, and it sounds like you're willing to comply with gang conditions, which would require you to not affiliate with known gang members, have gang-related paraphernalia, be involved in gang-related behavioral, etc. I have also, again, your written submissions about some of your plans about how to avoid that moving forward. But is that an accurate description of your statement on regarding your STG involvement?
yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, it's pretty much self-explanatory. I can stay away from things. That's I'm not pressured into the gang activity as much as my own self. Like, so I pretty much mess up on my own and not with the gang. So I can stay away from that as long as possible.
If in the file in your past hearings, I don't think you've ever reported. Have you ever been diagnosed with a mental illness or taken mental health medications?
No.
And how would you describe your mental health right now?
Good.
And no physical health issues, correct?
None. Not at all. No.
Okay, well, thank you for answering the questions that I had for you. At this time, any further statement, anything else you'd like the board to know?
No, just what I mentioned before with the victims and everything, and then about the program and everything. But I just want to thank you for the opportunity to gain some more knowledge and everything while being sober in prison. I know I've been clouded with a lot of emotions and everything from before due to my losses. So I just want to thank you guys for that, and that I'm willing to do what I need to do and what I need to change and everything. I know what I need to do now. And I appreciate the time given to me to speak as well.
Well, thank you for your statements today. I'll take your case under advisement at this time. I've put together a report of everything I reviewed prior to today. I'll include what you and I have talked about at today's hearing into that report, and then I'll submit that to the members of the Board of Pardons, hopefully by tomorrow.
Okay.
There's 5 board members. They make decisions by a majority vote, so 3 out of 5. That usually takes between 2 to 4 weeks for a decision to be made, but sometimes it is quicker than that, and sometimes it does take a bit longer than that. Once the decision is made, we'll send it to you in writing through the mail, and it will also be posted to the Board of Pardons website if there's anyone in the community that would like to access it there. So with that, Mr. Scona, thank you for being here and discussing these things with me. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll go ahead and conclude.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Parole violation and original hearing for Earl Rojas, number 251647. Is that you, sir?
Yes.
My name's Scott Manning. I'm a hearing officer with the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. I'll be conducting today. I'm going to be taking testimony from you. If you'd raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you provide today will be truthful and accurate?
I do.
Thank you. Did you receive at least 7 days written notice of today's hearing along with your blue disclosure packet?
I did.
So that disclosure packet has the new information that the board will be considering as they make a decision in your case. I have some questions about that. We'll be going over a lot of that, but part of the purpose of today's hearing is to allow you to discuss or correct any errors or inaccuracies that are in that disclosure. Are there any errors or inaccuracies you'd like to mention at this time?
No, but there is a couple of things that I feel like were left out. There should have been an acceptance letter from Castle Ridge Behavioral Health. It's a inpatient rehab that I have set up for when I get out of here.
Let me look and see if we've got that real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually talked to them 2 weeks ago and they sent another letter to you. So you should have.
I will check. All right, so let's see. You said it was sent 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, well, the first one was sent a little over a month ago, and then one was sent 2 weeks ago, and it was addressed to the Board of Pardons Attention Hearing Officer of the day.
Let me see. Yeah, we haven't received that. What I'll do, I will note your statement that you've been accepted to Castle Ridge. I've reviewed your letters and your written submissions. You talk quite a bit about planning to go to Castle Ridge, but I'll note your comment that you've been accepted, and certainly if they'd like to send that or maybe call the board to get proper procedures about how to get that to us, that would be appropriate as well. But we have not received it. At this point, I'll note your comments that you've been accepted into Castle Ridge, and I think you said that was for an intensive outpatient with positive pathways, but also residential at Castle Ridge, because you completed Castle Ridge on this most recent parole, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll note that your statement, you've been accepted, but we haven't received it. If they'd like to, they can send it. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll talk to them again and see what they.
Anything else you'd like to mention about or errors that you'd like to discuss?
No, I didn't see any other errors in there.
Okay. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to quickly review what's happened regarding your parole violations. From there, we need to discuss the new case. So there's 2 misdemeanor A, possession or use of a controlled substance convictions. We'll talk briefly about the facts of what happened in that case. From there, I have some questions for you about what happened on this most recent parole, what you've been doing recently, your plans moving forward, etc. And then at the end of the hearing, I'll let you have the final word and you can state anything else you'd like to, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You returned from your first and only parole in February of 2024. There were 9 parole violation allegations. In April of 2024, on a waiver, the board accepted your admissions to allegations 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and your no contest pleas to allegations 3, 8, and 9. At that time, they revoked the January 3rd, 2023 parole, and they set a paper review because case 241700032 was pending at that time. About a week later, you were convicted in that case of 2 counts of possession or use of a controlled substance. Those correspond with allegations 1 and 2, and a misdemeanor B, possession or use of a controlled substance, which corresponds with allegation 3. I'm going to recommend that the board take judicial notice of those new convictions. I'm also going to recommend that the board affirm the prior acceptance of your pleas, so your admissions and no contest pleas. So affirm that they already accepted those, and that will allow us to continue with the original hearing. Does that make sense to you? Essentially, the board, you've already entered pleas to the allegations. The case has been resolved. So really, there's no further action. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so the new case is case 241700032. February 15th, 2024, the report said you've been testing positive for heroin and methamphetamine on your urine analysis test with APMP recently prior to that time. I think in a shed at the residence you were staying, agents located heroin and a pipe used to smoke heroin. I think at that time you were arrested. Officers responded, I believe, and you were arrested. In your pockets, officers found a folding blade knife and a methamphetamine pipe. They learned, so you had an expired medical marijuana card. I've read your written submissions that you said that had expired about a month previous to this incident. Inside, so in the residence where you had been staying, officers found marijuana, THC dabs, and a THC vape pen. I've read again your written submissions in the pre-sentence, so at the time of sentencing, as well as the board packet. But is that summary accurate as to what happened in the case?
All but one thing. I did not have a methamphetamine pipe on me. I had a glass pipe that you use to smoke dab out of, marijuana dab. That's why they dropped the paraphernalia for methamphetamine.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
note that comment.
Yeah, it was a dab pipe.
As far as your parole, so you were released in January 23. You were on parole for about 14 months. I think you started at Nuke and completed a program there, and then you completed a 90-day inpatient program at Castle Ridge. I think after you left the residential program, it said that your agent and the treatment provider recommended intensive outpatient or some outpatient follow-up, but you never started that. I think it said you were working side jobs and staying busy for a few months, living in family's property there in Orangeville. It said you never received your domestic violence evaluation. Looks like, so you passed your UAs until about December 2023. I think they put a curfew at that point. And I think your family told APMP later in December you'd not been staying at the residence. And then from there, you had what I think it said 11 violations between December and February. The new case happened, and then you've been incarcerated since then. So it seems like you did well for several months prior to the relapse and falling back into some negative behaviors. What helped you during that time of progress?
Well, I had a job, and that really helped me a lot. And then what actually happened, it happened a little bit before the not staying at the residence thing. What happened was I had a job where I was working on call, and I was helping a guy that did property management. I was doing all of the maintenance and repair work in all of his houses. And I mean, it's like 22 houses and 4 apartment complexes. And so he had a whole apartment complex that needed retrofitted plumbing. and he let me stay in one of the apartments while I was retrofitting the plumbing. So it took me about a month. So for about a month, I stayed there pretty much every day. And my PO showed up at my house and talked to my dad. And my dad said, well, he hasn't been staying here because I had been just staying over in Price. And
Why didn't you tell your agent about that?
I didn't even think about it. Like it was a lapse on my part. And I mean, this was before I started failing UAs or anything like that. Like it was a lapse on my part. I didn't even think about it because it all kind of seems like the same area. But I was still going home 2-3 times a week. But I was out before my dad woke up and back after he went to sleep when I did come home. So I didn't even think about it being a thing. And that was a lapse on my part.
Led to you to relapsing, falling back into drug use? Because it seemed like that really was the, what's brought us back here. What led to the relapse?
Yeah, I was getting to that. My PO, when my dad said that, said, well, I got to put you on ankle monitor and give you a 10 o'clock curfew. So at 10 o'clock curfew, I told my boss I couldn't be on call 24/7 anymore. So I lost the job with him, and that set me back a little bit. But that's not really what made me relapse. What made me relapse was the Thanksgiving holiday. So over the course of this incarceration, I lost my kids and everything like that. So like the holidays kind of hit me hard, and I relapsed right after Thanksgiving, and I relapsed on meth. And I had actually never done heroin until the 1st of December, and then I just for some reason decided I was going to do it. And yeah, like that was my biggest thing. Just the lack of my losing my kids and everything like that. Just like I said, it hit me hard. It was
Okay.
a big mistake on my part. I had plenty of support at home. I had plenty of support, like even the people at Castle Ridge, like I've known them for my entire life. They're like family. Like Todd and Don were teachers in my schools. And I could have turned to them, but I instead I isolated myself, and through isolating myself, I just sort of left myself with the option of, for lack of a better word, being a dumbass. Like I know where I went wrong with this. And
Well, because you did the substance use treatment program. It sounds like, you've done some treatment, you're familiar with some of the principles. What insight do you have into healthy coping mechanisms? Because, it sounds like these types of emotions are a risk factor for you. So what thoughts do you have about what you can change moving forward to address those things?
I've actually already done a lot to address those things. I've alerted the people in my support group, which I have a large support group. I don't know how many letters you guys actually received versus how many people said they sent letters, but I have a huge amount of community support, and like I have lots of friends who are clean. I spent the majority of my adult life as a healthy, productive member of society, and so I have a huge support system that's clean, that are all upstanding citizens, and then my family has always been there. And then I really do have the people from that rehab. They're 5 minutes away from my house. So even when I get out and I'm home, I can always call them, and they always make it clear that I can always call them. I have friends and support that I can always call. I have a brother that's always been there, and I have my oldest daughter. I still have her, and she's an amazing source of support for me. Like that's been the hardest thing since I've been down, is just being away from my kiddo. And like I said, she's like my best friend. So, if I just stick with my support and I let people know what's going on, because like that's a big problem with me. Like I'm from, I don't know, where I'm from, you don't tell people how you feel. But like I've got over that. I've told all of these people that are important to me what happened, and what I need to do, and what times are hard for me, and how they can be there to support me. And they're all on board with this, and they all understand what happened, and how they can help, and what I need to do to help myself. But I also have it set up, like I said in my report, so that because I don't plan on going the whole length at Castle Ridge. I'd like to go there for 30 days or so, just as a transition. And then I already have it set up with the place called Positive Pathways that does an intensive outpatient program, as well as a transition program from the intensive outpatient program. And that just gives me that little bit of extra support. Especially since if I am released on my guideline, it's right near the holidays again. And, you know, I have it set up to where I have support through that. And then I have, you know, we'll have continuing support with a therapist and all of that. And I've worked really hard to make sure I have a system set up this time so I don't fail, because I don't want to come back here.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Well, thank you for your comments. I do note, I'm looking here, you had no convictions from 2004, so age 19 until 2021. So certainly I think the skills or the coping mechanisms that you need to get back to that, it seems like they're there. It's a matter of staying with those things, staying involved in the positive activities. It seems like to me, not following through with aftercare or intensive outpatient treatment really was a mistake that was made. And it sounds like you would agree with that, correct?
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, like I said, I already have it set up. So when I do get out, it's already ready already.
Yeah. We have, no disciplinaries, housing staff gives a positive report of your behavior and attitude as well. As far as your release plan, so it sounds like you would like to start, if you're granted parole, start at Castle Ridge for an inpatient portion and then do positive pathways, outpatient after that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then excuse me.
Oh, I was gonna say, and I already have that all set up. Like Castle Ridge already has my financial information. They already have all of that, and so does Positive Pathways. I was before I went in, before I came back that last month, I was actually doing the Positive Pathways thing. I don't know why my PO didn't put that in there, because I had already established and started Positive Pathways. I was a month in. We were doing I wish I could remember the name of I was on a mood stabilizer, and my use and abuse had dropped dramatically by that point. I hadn't stopped, but that was a big mistake. But
You did? Because I was going to ask about that. There were mental health conditions. So you got your mental health evaluation and you were taking medications, doing mental health treatment. Is that correct?
Yes. They were giving me it was just a mood stabilizer. I can't remember the name of it, but it was injectable. And it was so I went in for the first week. I got a starter dose, and then I got another starter dose the next week. And then when was going to go in the next week, which is the week I got arrested. I went the day before I got arrested. The next dose they gave me it lasted a month, and then after that it was every month that I was going to go in, and it's an injectable. And they told me that the reason why they did that was because the courts like it, because I'm not reliant upon having to take a medication every day, and so it's not up to me. It's taken out of my hands, and they know that I'm on something that helps.
Where did you do the mental health? Where were you doing that?
Positive Pathways.
Okay.
It's in Price, and it's a combination of medically assisted treatment and like therapy and mental health. You know what I mean? It's traditional mental health therapy and medically assisted treatment.
And it sounds like, so if I'm understanding correctly, depression and anxiety at times. I think also you've talked about childhood ADHD. Those are kind of the issues that you've dealt with on and off. Would you say that's accurate?
Yes. And, as far as like the depression's not really been an issue in my life ever until, prison. Because I lost everything, my family, everything. Like I lost everything you can lose that matters. And
sorry. Go ahead.
And then after that, it's like depression was never even an issue when I was locked up. It kind of became an issue, like I said, about Thanksgiving last year. And even at that, it was pretty fleeting. Once I got over the initial depression, it wasn't that bad, but I was stuck back in that loop of addiction. And so, yeah, like once that, like I've done, I don't know, I think that I've been in here for eight months almost, and I've been clean the entire time. There's been no use in here.
Are you taking medications now, mental health medications?
No. I self-regulate really well, like with the anxiety thing. Like my whole life, I've always had anxiety. Like it's been a thing. And then I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder when I was 18. And then I didn't take medication for it because the medication that they had for it when I did try it was like Xanax. And I don't like being laid out. And it made me kind of a zombie. So I learned to cope without it. And I do a really, really good job of coping without sedative medication.
Okay. And I think in your written submission, you said you have some oral health. You'd like to get treatment on that, and it's in place this year. But
Yeah.
it sounds like, if I understand correctly, no physical health issues that you think would prevent you from being successful on parole.
Absolutely not. No. No, I mean, other than the oral health issues, I'm fit.
Okay. Let me just make sure I've touched on everything I had planned, and then I'll give you a chance to make a final statement. Okay. Yeah, those are the questions I have for you. Anything else that you'd like the board to know?
Just that, you know, I squandered my chance the first time I had it, and that this time when I'm given the chance at parole, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm not going to repeat the same mistakes. Like I have the treatment in place. I have all of these things in place so that I can be successful this time. I think I did do a domestic violence assessment with a place called Logan DV. And so I don't know why that wasn't in there either, but I'll have to do another one when I get out because it's been more than 6 months.
Yeah.
But that's all right. I already have it in place to pay for that and to take that assessment. So I'll be doing that while I'm at Castle Ridge. Like they were amenable to that, and they were willing to help me with that too. So I'll have that done by the time I'm done with that.
Okay. Well, I'll note that. Certainly, like I said, if you'd like to have them send the acceptance letter or any other letters that they'd like us to have in their file, you can do that. I mean, we haven't received them, so I would maybe, they can call us and we have staff to kind of walk them through it if they'd like to do that. So that's an option.
Is
What I'll
it
do it.
the Marie address? Suite
Yeah, I mean,
300.
it's widely available on Google or really internet site.
It's something Suite 300 Marie, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what they sent it to. They assured me.
So I have them call the office. We have an email address that's the best. Have them call the office and we'll give them the email address. That's really the easiest way to do it.
Okay, yeah, I'll have them do that.
Okay, at this point we're out of time. What I'll do from here is take your case under advisement. I've put together a report of what I reviewed prior to today's hearing. I'll include what you and I talked about at today's hearing into that report, and then I'll submit that to the members of the board, hopefully by tomorrow. As you know, there's 5 board members. They make decisions by a majority vote. It usually takes between 2 to 4 weeks for a decision to be made. Once it is made, we'll send it to you in writing through the mail, and it will also be posted to the Board of Pardons website. So with that, thank you for being here, Mr. Rojas, and participating in today's hearing. I wish you the best of luck moving forward, and we'll go ahead and conclude.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
An original hearing for Jesse Santiago, number 238301. Is that you, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
My name's Scott Manning. I'm a hearing officer with the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. I'll be conducting today. I'm going to be taking testimony from you. If you raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you provide today will be truthful and accurate?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. Did you receive at least 7 days written notice of today's hearing, along with your blue disclosure packet?
Yes, sir, I did.
I think as you understand, that disclosure packet contains the new information that the board will be considering as they make a decision in your case. I have some questions about that. We'll go over the parole violations. We'll talk about your recent parole, the new case, what you've been doing. But part of today, the purpose of today's hearing is to allow you to talk about any errors or inaccuracies that you see in that information. Are there any errors or inaccuracies you'd like to mention at this time?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, and it's kind of faint. Let me make sure my volume's up. I can hear you, but if you don't mind just speaking up and trying to speak as clearly as possible, but I can't hear you. So what I'm
Okay.
going to do, I'm going to quickly review what's happened leading to this hearing, and we'll talk about the new case. It's a case that happened on your most recent parole, and it relates to some of the parole violation allegations. So we'll talk about the facts of the case. From there, I'm going to have you enter pleas to the 9 parole violation allegations. Obviously, like I said, the criminal case has been resolved, but the pending violations are still there. So we'll have you enter pleas to that. After that, I have some questions for you. I want to briefly talk about your most recent parole, what happened, what you've been doing since, your plans moving forward. And then at the end of the hearing, I'll give you the final word and you can state anything else you'd like to, okay?
Yes, sir.
You returned from your 4th parole in September 2023. At the time, there were only 3 parole violation allegations. After that hearing, the board, I think you entered denials to all 3 allegations, and the board continued the hearing because there was a criminal investigation into, the time around your arrest. In December of 2023, APMP submitted amended warrant requests, so there's now 9 parole violation allegations. In March, the hearing was again continued because at that point, case 241901702, it was pending at that time. In April 2024, you were convicted in that case. That's the new case we'll talk about. You were convicted of theft by receiving either a firearm or operable motor vehicle, I believe operable motor vehicle in the case felony 2. That corresponds with allegation number 4. You were also convicted of possession of a dangerous weapon by a restricted person, felony 3. That corresponds, I believe, with allegation 9. And you were also convicted of failure to stop or respond at the command of police, felony 3. That corresponds with allegation 5. I note that the criminal charges related to allegations 6, 7, and 8 were either dismissed per your plea deal or not filed in the case. Nonetheless, all those have been dismissed. I do need you to enter pleas to all the allegations today, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the new case. So case 241901702 looks like on September 13th, 2023, I'm going to call this person victim number 1. Their green Honda Civic was stolen. The next day, a witness told officers you arrived in an auto shop in a green Honda Civic and told the witness that you had stolen it. The next day after that, an officer approached you and you were driving the green Honda Civic. At that point, you looked at the officer and sped away, and officers did not pursue you because of heavy traffic and safety concerns. So did you steal the green Honda Civic?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And it was you that fled from police in that car?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. Next, on September 19th, 2023, I'm referring to this individual as victim number 2. Their gold Toyota Camry was stolen. Shortly after, an officer located you driving that car. When the officer approached you, you, quote, fled at a high speed. Again, the officer did not pursue you due to heavy traffic. So, same questions. Did you steal this gold Camry?
Yes, sir, I did.
And it was you that was driving that fled from police?
Yes.
Okay. And then third, on September, that same day, September 19th, victim number 3's red black Honda Civic was stolen. Officers followed you as you drove that Honda Civic. It says that car was found abandoned near where one of the other cars was stolen. So did you steal this third red and black Honda Civic?
No, that was not me, no.
Okay. All right. And then the next day, September 20th, 2023, You were at a gas station, I believe, in a separate car. The report says you fled at a high rate of speed when officers approached you. An officer blocked an intersection with their emergency lights. It says you drove onto the shoulder to bypass stopped vehicles. It says you looked at an officer and then continued fleeing. They discussed your identification based on your appearance. It says a subsequent search of the vehicle revealed fentanyl, a hatchet, several large kitchen knives, a debit card belonging to one of those prior victims. And then you told officers you had purchased the vehicles for $100 from a friend. You admitted that you had fled from police. You told them you were a fugitive from parole at that time. I've read your written submissions kind of about the parole and then what happened, but is that summary all accurate as to what happened?
Yes.
Other than, I'll note your statement that the third car, the red and black Honda Civic, you deny that you stole that one. Everything else is accurate. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then just wanted to follow up. I know you have a history of fleeing from police. It's been somewhat of a pattern. Wanted to ask, what led to you repeating that cycle on this last parole? What insight have you gained into that?
So when I got out, I was doing good. I was working at a job. I was doing good for 2 months. I slowly progressed into hanging out with the same people that I was associating with the last few times I was out. It slowly just progressed into me getting high, and after that, it kind of just went to shit. I ran away from the house that I was staying at. I didn't want to continue to get high at the house I was staying at because I felt like I owed them at least that much. I respect the people that I was living with, and they're good friends and family to me. So I pretty much just left. I didn't tell my PO that I switched addresses, and I pretty much just went on a getting high binge from there on out.
Okay. And then I do note the sentencing court ordered, I think, about $3,000, so $3,900 in May of 2024. Have you paid any restitution, and are you willing to pay that restitution?
Yeah, I'm willing to pay. I haven't been able to pay because I've been down this whole time.
Yeah.
But when I get out, I have a full-time job. So, I mean, when I get out, I'm willing to pay whatever,
Okay.
however they have to want to set it up.
Well, I'll note your comments. So there's 9 parole violation allegations. Again, some of these are related to the new case, but I do need you to enter pleas to each of those allegations. So just so you're aware, the dates on the allegations in the warrant request were not correct. The probable cause statement all referred to September 20th, 2023, so that was the day of your arrest. And the actual allegations listed a day in October, which obviously you were back in prison at that time. What I'm going to do, if you don't have an objection, is I'm going to amend the dates to between September 14th, 2023 and September 20th, 2023, because that is the period of time when this alleged behavior occurred, as I understand it. So do you have any objection to me amending those dates?
I don't know.
Okay. But so I do need to advise you, you have the right to force the Department of Corrections to prove each of these allegations by a preponderance of the evidence. Certainly your new convictions are sufficient to revoke your parole. If you, basically what an evidentiary hearing is, you'd have an attorney. The state would have to present evidence of these things occurring. You would be able to rebut that evidence and present a defense of your own. If you admit or plead no contest to these allegations, you'll be waiving your right to that evidentiary hearing. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read each allegation. The first is by having failed to comply with your parole agreement or case action plan. Do you admit, deny, or plead no contest?
I admit.
Okay, number 2, by having failed to establish, reside at, or changed without prior approval of APMP or residence of record. Admit, deny, or no contest?
Admit.
Number 3, by having absconded or fled from parole on or about August 15th, 2023, admit, deny, or no contest.
I admit.
Number 4, by having committed or by having been convicted of a new criminal offense or violated court order, felony 2, theft by receiving stolen property, firearm, or motor vehicle, on or between September 14th, 2023 and September 20th, 2023. Do you admit, deny, or no contest?
I admit.
Number 5, all the same except for the charge being felony 3, failure to stop or respond at the command of police. Do you admit, deny, or plead no contest?
I admit.
Number 6, all the same except charge misdemeanor A, possession of a controlled substance, schedule 1 or 2 analog. Admit, deny, or no contest.
I admit.
Number 7, all the same except the charge misdemeanor B, unlawful manufacture or possession of burglary tools. Admit, deny, or no contest.
Admit.
Number 8, all the same except for charge felony 3, unlawful acquisition, possession, or transfer of a financial card. Admit, deny, or no contest.
Admit.
Number 9, all the same except charge felony 3, purchase, transfer, possess, or use of a dangerous weapon by a restricted person. Admit, deny, or no contest.
I admit.
Let's see. So back to the case. What was the weapon that they're referring to?
It was a pocket knife.
Okay, weapon was the pocket knife.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, what I'm going to do is I'll recommend that the board, I find your pleas knowing and voluntary. I'll recommend that the board accept your admissions to all 9 allegations. Based on your new convictions and your admissions, I'll recommend that the board revoke the May 30th, 2023 parole, and that will allow us to move forward. Okay, so it looks like you started your parole at the address in Magna, had a job working at the audio shop. I think it said you tested positive for methamphetamine. So after about a month and a half, or let's see, about just over 2 months, put on curfew. At that point, left your residence. A warrant was issued for absconding, and then the events in the new case happened about a month later. So I'll note the comments you've made up to this point. You know, in your written submissions, you talked about becoming stressed, not being able to deal with the stress. I guess my question in general, I've reviewed your 4 paroles. I don't think they've been about 4 months or less. Absconded twice, the 3 times of new convictions. Wanted your input. What do you think needs to change? You know, if you are granted parole, what needs to change so that you can break this cycle? And also, you know, what evidence is there that you're ready to engage in that type of behavior?
Honestly, I feel like I just need a lot of counseling. I've had a lot of loss in my life. So I feel like I just need to kind of get around that and get through it and get some counseling for that. And then also, I also have a drug addiction. So, I'm trying to figure out somewhere to go when I get out to take care of the urges that I have when I get, like, every time I get out and stuff gets too stressful. I'm trying to find somewhere I can go and have people I can talk to when my urges get strong or I get stressed out, pretty much.
My understanding that you also would like to try, if you're granted another parole, so RSAT at like Odyssey House or the Haven, am I understanding that correctly, that would be your plan?
Yeah.
Okay. And sorry to cut you off. Any other input that you have on that?
No, not really. No, I'm just trying to get out and get counseling and get drug and rehabilitation for drug use.
I know, so prior to your second parole, I believe you completed the Beaver substance use treatment program. You also did cognitive behavioral therapy at that time. In the board packet, you said, so when asked if you need treatment, you say, quote, I've done it before, and the ones in here do not help. Help me understand that. Because it seems like on the paroles, they've all been quick, and it's been a return to substance abuse and then the dangerous behavior. These treatment programs, certainly, they're designed to address these issues to reduce the risk related to public safety. Do you have any other input or thoughts about treatment or how these things can be addressed?
When I did treatment in the prison, so when I was doing treatment in here, basically it was like everybody was just pretty much skipping stuff. Everybody was just doing prison time. They weren't really programming. So the only help like that I ever got was when I talked to like my counselor or my caseworkers or anybody that like when I was having issues. But when I was in the sections, it was basically like nobody was programming. Everybody was doing prison time, getting high and doing their thing still. So I basically didn't feel like it helped at all. So I wanted to try to do something on the streets because I'd rather go to a program that I know is going to be there and actually help me and commit to being there for me instead of going somewhere where there's a whole bunch of inmates where everybody's still getting high and pretty much not giving a fuck about nothing at all, you know?
Okay. Thank you for your comments. And I guess, from there's been the 4 paroles, and all of those paroles have included, the condition of following through with treatment, arranging that and addressing those things in the community. And I certainly don't, want to minimize any things that have gone on there and the difficulties with that. But I think the board will be, trying to address, what needs to be different, because there has been that opportunity in the community. What needs to change so that you will follow through with that?
Probably just getting released straight to a drug program instead of straight to the streets.
Okay. I know you don't have any disciplinaries. Are you doing any classes right now? I think you were in MRT for a brief time, but I don't think I have any documentation of any further programming. Have you done any other programming since you've been back?
I was doing education, but then I started working nights. So I've been sleeping most of the day away. I work laundry right in Cache County right now, so I work from 9 to 5 in the morning. So I sleep most of my day away when they do classes. But other than that, I haven't done nothing else.
Laundry. I think the institutional progress report I reviewed, it said you were in the kitchen. Have you now moved over to laundry, or were you
Yeah,
in the
so
kitchen?
I was in the kitchen and then I moved from the kitchen to laundry.
Okay. And housing staff, so you don't have any disciplinaries. They note the jobs you've done. They give a positive report. Said you've been in your jobs, you've done a good job in those employments that you've had. So I'll note that for the board. We've kind of discussed a little bit about release plan. It sounds like wanting to get into a treatment program off the bat at the start. I think in your written submissions, you said you'd hope to then live with family in Salt Lake after transitioning. You've talked about wanting to go back to the same job at the audio store. I received letters of support, I believe, from your grandfather and a friend for you. I've provided a summary of those in my report for the board. But do you have any other input or comments you have that if you are granted parole, what your plan would look like?
Not really, not necessarily, no. Just pretty much counseling and drug program. That's the only thing that I have stuck in my mind right now.
Okay. And do you have any? There's varying reports in the file. Mental health diagnoses that you've received in the past. I think at times bipolar and ADHD. Are those accurate as far as your diagnoses?
Yeah,
Okay. And then at times experienced depression, at times but never been diagnosed with depression.
yeah.
Have you ever taken medications for those diagnoses?
No, I have not.
And it sounds like, if I'm understanding correctly, you'd like to do mental health treatment or trauma-informed treatment is kind of an idea that you had.
Yeah.
Your paroles have included mental health conditions. Did you get your evaluations on those paroles?
So when I talked to my AP&P officer, he had me go to this place that I think it was the TRC or something like that. And
Yeah.
I went and talked to one person down there, and basically they just wanted me to do some classes once a week, or I think twice a week or something like that. And that was it after that. I didn't talk to nobody after that.
You go to those classes?
I went to one, and then I slowly progressed. I just pretty much started getting high, and I didn't continue to go.
Okay. What do you think would help with the follow through on that? Because, you know, the resources are there, right, to address these things. It's a matter of getting that arranged, and that takes effort on your side and certainly communication, and then following through with it. What do you think would help to arrange those things and get in a place where it will benefit you?
I just need to get myself in a better state than I usually am. The last time I got out, my uncle passed away when I was locked down the last time, and I got out and I didn't have time to grieve it. And so when I was out I was doing good for 2 months. I just basically kind of didn't, yeah, everything kind of just got fucked up really quick, and it happened really fast. But I have a support system out there now, and my family's out there that's ready to support me. I have my friends and that I work for, and my boss that I work for that's ready to support me. I have my lady out there that's ready to support me, and her kids and her family. Just to pretty much, I just need that support group. And I had them when I was out, but I took it for granted the last time I was out. So I didn't necessarily, once I started getting high, I started pushing away from everybody.
Okay. Well, you've answered the questions I have for you. I'll note the comments you have. We're about out of time, but is there anything else you'd like the board to know?
No, sir, I think I covered everything.
Okay, what I'll do from here is take your case under advisement. I've put together a report of what I reviewed prior to today. I'll include what we've talked about today in that report, and then I'll submit that to the members of the board. As you know, there's 5 board members. They make decisions by majority vote. Once that decision is made, it usually takes between 2 to 4 weeks. We will send it to you in writing through the mail. It will also be posted to the Board of Pardons website if there's anyone in the community that would like to access it there. So with that, thank you for attending today, Mr. Santiago, and discussing these things with me. I wish you the best of luck moving forward, and we'll go ahead and conclude.
Thank you, sir.